a time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Status quo. Status quo. Jordan Jarrett in the house. Status quo. Monday, September 23rd, 2019, in the United Corporations of America. Hope everybody had a lovely, lovely weekend, as I did. For those of you that joined me yesterday on the Marathon Sunday live stream, I had a wonderful time. We raised a good chunk of change, too, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. And today we begin the fight anew. And it is a fight up to the deaths against the corporate media establishment. Omniscient Zero, terrible song. Well, Omniscient, I happen to think it's a lovely song. So we're just going to have to agree to disagree, personally. But again, a lot of things going on in the news and a lot of things going on at Status Quo, so we'll do a little bit about that. Jordan, did you address the residue issue? No, not yet. Not yet. But when is Nate Silver going to be tossed? When does Nate Silver get to go into the woods with Hillary Clinton? That's what I want to know. Calling Bernie Sanders' diverse voter base residue. I'm sure we're going to get to that. So, remember, folks, we always ask of you, smash the like button, smash the like button, smash the like button. The more people that press that like button, the more people that will see the live stream. YouTube is doing its darndest to make sure nobody even knows this channel exists. So press that thumbs up button. It's right under the video. The more people that press the thumbs up button, the more people that will see us live. We are now at 718 Status Quo members. You can become a member for as cheap as a cup of coffee a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month, or we have annual plans at $179. Join us. And later this week will be our members call, our monthly members call. So I think we're going to do that on Thursday. So for our members, you will be invited into our monthly video call with myself, Jen, and we have a wonderful time. You see me, I see you. It's through Zoom. So if you're not a member and want to join us. statusquo.com/join. We are also getting close to 10,000 Twitter followers. So follow us at Status Quo. I think we're 500 away from 10,000 on Twitter. Subscribe to our podcast. That's right there is the short link. And then join our email list by going to statusquo.com and enter your email if you so choose. Now, I also have to draw it to your attention. We are really, we're so close. We're so close, you know? So close. We are just $592 away from reaching $75,000 raised. And why that's important is then it brings us to, it's the final countdown. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Then it brings us to $10,000 left to raise, which I don't know, psychologically, there's something about that number. It's not going to be easy, but I think we could do it. But first, we got to hit that final countdown. So if you so choose, we got a lot of donations yesterday, so if you're tapped out, we get it. But if you have a couple bucks to spare, drop it in the GoFundMe, pretty please. All of this money is going to raise money so we could go out into the field and report. Also, we have an opportunity to buy some much needed equipment, which costs quite a few bucks. And we might be buying that equipment this week, so we definitely need to raise more money to support that. This equipment is a mobile satellite that will allow us to go live without issue, without buffering, without connectivity issue, that kind of thing, whether it be from rallies or more remote areas like think Standing Rock in North Dakota or somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So we need to buy that equipment, and we're almost there, but we got to raise more money. So please help us out in the GoFundMe. So yesterday, if you missed, I showed you the absurd stuff coming out of CNN where Bernie Sanders has a bad poll in Iowa, even though he is recent polls leading in New Hampshire, Nevada, Colorado, tied for the lead in California, has a bad poll in Iowa. Is it time for Bernie Sanders to drop out? CNN says. And you're going to start hearing this more and more from the corporate media establishment. I don't hear them saying, is it time for Kamala Harris at 6% to drop out? America's mayor, Pete Buttigieg, is it time for him to drop out? Is it time for Andrew Yang, 3% to drop out? By the way, I'll have somebody tomorrow on UBI to give, universal basic income more of an explanation here. Is it time, maybe, I don't know, Michael Bennett, John Delaney, who else am I forgetting? Is it time for some of those people, Cory Booker, time for them to drop out? I don't know. Maybe they should be able to run their campaign. But Bernie Sanders, most donations of any candidate, individual donors in history, drop out. Everybody else, well, they should give them some time, show support. Okay, so we established that yesterday. Go check out that video. Now, I said yesterday that to me, even though progressives want him to go after Elizabeth Warren, I don't think it's time for Bernie Sanders to go after Elizabeth Warren. Let other people go after Elizabeth Warren. I think Biden is going to start going after her. I think you might see Pete Buttigieg start going after her. I think Kamala definitely has to start going after her because Elizabeth Warren is taking the most voters from Kamala Harris. So let them go after Warren, and there's plenty to go after Warren on, which I've talked about at length. And I wanted to see Bernie Sanders aggressively go after Joe Biden. Well, I don't want to, be presumptuous, but I'm wondering if somebody from Bernie's campaign was watching me yesterday on the Sunday Marathon. And thank you very much, Lawrence Johnson, getting us started in the GoFundMe, $10. We are now $582 away from that $75,000 mark. Keep it coming. Thank you, Lawrence. I know you've been donating quite a bit. We really appreciate it. So, Joe Biden has obviously been putting out this fakakta, as my dearly departed grandma used to say, this fakakta nonsense about Medicare for all, that it's going to raise your taxes, and people are going to lose their insurance, and, all this nonsense. And it's really kind of reminded me of Ronald Reagan's nonsense and absurdity and propaganda and fear-mongering in the 1960s about, oh my God, shining city on a hill, if we have socialized medicine, there will be no freedom. We will wake up to an Armageddon of epic proportions, Ronald Reagan used to say. And then Jen sent me this story before I went live, where Joe Biden is now just essentially enlisting polling firms on how best to knowingly lie about Medicare for all. It would be one thing if you just had different, disagreements. You're more of an incrementalist. You don't think people should get health care as a right. That's one thing. It's another thing to know you're lying. Go reach out to a polling firm to basically polish up your lies. So let me just remind you, because honestly, to me, I don't really see a difference. Jordan, you're wrong. I usually agree with you, but Warren has to be exposed. I don't think we need to go after her. Yeah, we agree. I just don't think right now is the time for Bernie Sanders to do that. It would the media would attack Bernie Sanders if he went after Warren, even respectfully, right now, as he's flailing, he's desperate, blah, 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 blah. Bernie Sanders, as I've already explained, I'll do it again real quickly, he has the most opportunity to pick off voters, not from Elizabeth Warren, from Joe Biden. Joe Biden has more of the voters that typically would consider Bernie Sanders, which shows you how terrible our media is, because so many working class people are so misinformed to support Joe Biden. Elizabeth Warren, her base is actually not the Bernie Sanders supporter, contrary to what CNN and MSNBC keep lying about. Her base is more wealthy, more educated, people making above $50,000 a year, people with more than just a high school degree. That's not Bernie Sanders' base. It doesn't mean he's not ultimately down the road going to have to go after her. But I don't think now is the time to do that, because I think the media would paint it as, old white Bernie going after, a credible female candidate for the presidency. First you got to knock out Biden, then Bernie could square off against Warren. That's what I think. You don't have to agree. So here's the thing. Joe Biden is now essentially, I think, worse than Ronald Reagan in terms of the fear-mongering about Medicare for all. But first, let me remind you, this is what Ronald Reagan said about the devastation, the Armageddon, the Chernobyl coming to America if Medicare, original Medicare, passed.
Trees are nature's solution to climate change, and you can help plant millions by switching
the ability to stand as finding the letter right back and tell him that you believe in government economy and fiscal responsibility, that you know that governments don't tax to get the money they need, governments will always find a need for the money they get, and that you demand the continuation of our traditional free enterprise system. You and I can do this. The only way we can do it is by writing to our congressman, even if we believe that he's on our side to begin with, write to strengthen his hand, give him the ability to stand before his colleagues in Congress and say, I have heard from my constituents and this is what they want. Write those letters now, call your friends and tell them to write them. If you don't, this program, I promise you, will pass just as surely as the sun will come up tomorrow. And behind it will come other federal programs that will invade every area of freedom as we have known it in this country, until one day, as Norman Thomas said, we will awake to find that we have socialism. And if you don't do this, and if I don't do it, one of these days, you and I are going to spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Well, sir, thanks for being here. It's nice.
Sorry about that. I was going for my claw. Oh my God! Remember that time when Armageddon was coming? Socialized medicine. Oh my God! Chernobyl. Armageddon. That was Ronald Reagan from the 1960s, if you remember. Well, Joe Biden taking a page. He's taking a page out of good old Ronald Reagan's book. Because if you listen to Joe Biden, I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. He says, $3 trillion. He says 150 million people will have their wonderful, altruistic, generous, employer-based health care taken away. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what Joe Biden is saying. And now, I guess the claw really works. Just got $30, Karen Daly, Alaska, $20. I've always wanted to go to Alaska. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Alaska. We are now just $572 away. No. Oh, I'm so bad at math. 532 $532 away. Excuse me, $532 away. Keep it coming, keep it coming. I would love to get to 75,000 during this live stream. So we know Joe Biden has been lying. We know that. So now Joe Biden is going around trying to find ways to better lie about Medicare for all, because this is all he has. Joe Biden is basically taking the playbook of Republicans, scare the living hell out of old people, and, you know, hope that they come out and force to vote for you against that boogeyman, Bernie Sanders. A new poll. Oh, boy, why is this, God darn it. Hold on. One second. La-da-dee, la-dee-da. Gosh darn it. Of course I don't have the article. Jen, could you find this article that I tweeted and send it to me? For some reason, it won't show up. So, Bernie just tweeted it out, actually, so I'll just read from there. A firm linked to Joe Biden tested messages to undercut support for Medicare for all among Democrats. Here's what it found to be effective and ineffective at persuading 2020 primary voters. While I wait for the actual article, I could pretty much just give you what was said in the article. Joe Biden's main pollster is essentially testing which messages will work against Medicare for all, and when they just asked without twisting it, when they surveyed and polled different people to say, what do you think of Medicare for all? 70% of the people they survey are for Medicare for all. Then it goes down when they start tossing in this bad language about what, would you be okay with having your health care taken away? So those key words, taken away, support goes down. Those key words, adding to the debt, placing a huge middle-class tax increase. Then it goes down. No wonder, because most people just read what the polls say and think, oh, well, that's probably what would happen, because that's what they're saying, right? And remember, folks, we got 400 people watching. Only 200 of you have pressed the like button. So we need 200 more of you to press that like button, press that like button, press that like button. The more people that press the thumbs up button right under the video, the more people that will see the video. So you basically have Joe Biden trying his best to lie, trying his best to muddy the waters, because he knows the number one issue, judging by the midterm election exit polls, is healthcare. So if you have a growingly popular program, the only way you're going to defeat it is to lie out of your fucking teeth. Excuse my French. Demonetized. So this is very nefarious. And now you have Bernie Sanders fighting back. And I love it. This is what I told him to do yesterday. Bernie Sanders tweets this out. It's unfortunate, but not surprising, that Biden's polling firm is helping distort Medicare for all. The truth, Medicare for all means no premiums, co-payments, or deductibles. It means everyone except the very wealthy will be paying far less than they do now for health care. His campaign also emailed out a statement. Senator Bernie Sanders on Monday released the following statement. Quote, it's unfortunate, but not surprising that Vice President Biden's polling firm is helping to distort what Medicare for all is about. My Medicare for all legislation eliminates all premiums, co-payments, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses that crush millions of Americans, which not only saves people money, it will allow all Americans to go to any doctor or hospital they want with no one expending more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. Let me be clear. Under my proposal, no one earning less than $29,000 will pay any new taxes, and for everybody else, except the very wealthy, what they will be paying in taxes will be far less than what they are currently paying for premiums, co-pays, deductibles, prescription drugs, and other healthcare expenses. Finally, Medicare for all will be a great deal for the American people. I love it. I love it. And I would like to see Bernie Sanders hit the television waves and make this message even more. Okay, I got the story for you now. And by the way, I left out the fact this poll that Joe Biden is putting out there is commissioned by none other than the Wall Street puppet organization Third Way, who suddenly is warming up to one Elizabeth Warren. Isn't that interesting? A new poll by a firm linked to Joe Biden is testing messages designed to undercut support among Democrats for Medicare for All. The survey, commissioned by the centrist, that's nonsense, they're Republicans, centrist Democratic think tank Third Way, found that primary voters start off favoring the government-run healthcare system by a margin of 70% to 21%. But they can be persuaded to oppose it, i.e., if you lie to them about it. The study showed that Democrats are most swayed by the arguments that the program would impose a heavy cost on taxpayers and threaten Medicare for senior citizens. The poll was conducted by Lisa Grove of Anzalone Grove Research. Her partner, John Anzalone, is the chief pollster and an advisor to Biden. Again, I have said this before. Some of you might not like it. And just to be clear, I am not calling for Bernie Sanders to borrow from Karl Rove politically. I'm just saying borrow for one short segment or one video, okay? Bernie, we need a whiteboard. We need a whiteboard. And on the left side, why don't you put, I don't know, $15,000 a year, okay? Which, on average, families are paying in somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 a year, depending on how large your family is, for health care, okay? So that's bucket A. That's just $20,000 a year. Bucket B, let's put it at $12,000 a year. I'm just making these numbers up. But $15,000 to $25,000 a year is an estimate of how much families pay per year in healthcare costs. Then you have what Bernie's talking about, which I would say would be about, depending on the family, $7,000 to $12,000 a year. You take this bucket away, and she should write this down on a whiteboard. You take that bucket away, and you're left with a tax cut, not a tax increase. This is a tax. It's just under a new name. Premiums, copays, deductibles, coinsurance. Put it away, get rid of it, and then all you have left is a modest increase in taxes, but your overall savings, it is a tax cut. This is not complicated to explain. I happen to be a visual person. I know a lot of other people are visual. So I think Bernie Sanders' campaign should get more visual on the difference and the fact that this is an overall tax saving. I also think, frankly, Jordan, have you told the other progressive YouTubers about the New York rigging yet? I certainly have. I don't know what they're doing. Everybody should be reporting on that. And I'm following up on that, so I'll have more about that this week. I have told other YouTubers about the rigging going on in New York. So Bernie Sanders is going after him on this, and I think that's good because the bottom line is the number one issue for voters is health care. Elizabeth Warren, frankly, is weakest on health care. She hems and haws and hems and haws and talks out of two sides of her mouth on Medicare for All. She won't give a straight answer on will people's taxes go up? All you got to say is what Bernie's saying, which is the truth. Yeah, your taxes are going to go up. Like other countries, you pay a little bit more in taxes, but you save a lot more when you get rid of healthcare costs. She won't say that because, frankly, I don't think she's going to fight for Medicare for All. And outside of that, she's preserving herself, thinking she might win the nomination, and she doesn't want to allow Republicans to have a dishonest attack ad against her. Either way, you're not leading with integrity and you're not being honest. So I think by default, if Bernie goes after Biden on this issue, Bernie is going to shine because he is at his best when he's fighting the issue of healthcare. And secondly, this is the issue that matters most to the voters. In most polls, healthcare even comes before the economy. So this is what you're leading on. Now, you need to do it beyond a tweet, beyond a statement. I want to hear this in rallies. I want Bernie Sanders to go out and do a press conference specifically to rebut Joe Biden. because Biden doesn't have the facts on his side. That's why he's trying to get a third way Wall Street funded firm who pretends to be progressive, who is openly hates Bernie Sanders. They said they would rather Lucifer as president than Bernie Sanders. I'm just making that up, but essentially they would rather Lucifer as president. Why aren't you going after Biden for third way? And you need to be going after him much more aggressively than a tweet and then this. We want to see you fight, not just your supporters, but those voters that are making less than $50,000 a year. Those voters that only have a high school degree that right now, for whatever ridiculous reason, are supporting Joe Biden, call it being misinformed and uninformed. They need to see the fact that the person they're supporting right now is lying to them. And I think Bernie Sanders is uniquely well equipped to make that case. So I'd like him to drill this home time and time after. And also, one thing that I think Bernie Sanders, frankly, I don't know why his campaign hasn't been doing more of this. At every single rally he has, there is 100% amazing, potentially viral making human beings in the audience. When I say viral making, I mean like videos going viral. Bring up people on that stage if you're Bernie Sanders. Tell them about the hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt they have. Tell them about their insurance company denying them for surgery for cancer or whatever it is. These moments, just like the moment where you had a veteran at your rally that got news coverage saying, I'm going to kill myself. I can't take care of myself. I can't get covered for, I forget what the issue was, my apologies, a serious medical issue that's making him chronically ill to the point he's suicidal. You have those kinds of stories sitting right rally after rally. Maybe Bernie Sanders, he doesn't want to exploit. I don't know. I don't know what is the reason, but people respond to human beings. People respond to personal stories. So Bernie could keep going up there, giving the same speech. We all know the speech. We all like the speech. And we all know the issues, and that's great. We support him for policy, but for those voters outside his base, they will respond if they see. It's not just Bernie saying this is what happened. They need to see the human suffering from the healthcare industry, and then they might wonder, well, what if this happens to me? And we are now $500 away from $75,000. Thank you, Tony Clifton, $12 in the GoFundMe. Thank you, Jerome, $20 in the GoFundMe. Why another $500 today would be amazing is then we are in the final stretch of this GoFundMe. Then we just have $10,000 left to raise. I don't say just like that's nothing, but psychologically, it's a little bit easier once you're very close to reaching a milestone, especially for us. We're a small, startup media company that has not had much funding, that has never taken money from banks, oil companies, pharmaceutical companies, real estate, Silicon Valley, big Republican, Democratic donors. We haven't taken their money. We don't want the money. So we have only gotten resources from you. So it's really remarkable. I don't want to get, cheesy, but it's amazing to me that you guys are willing to put it on the line for us. And we hope you see we're willing to put it on the line for you guys. And hopefully I should have an announcement soon, hopefully in the next few days, about a new camera person. And then hopefully once we get that new camera person, getting out there in the field soon. But I need to hire a new camera person, so that's kind of in the behind the scenes final stages right now. So let's see if we can get another $500. That would be amazing. So basically, frankly, Bernie Sanders can find stories like this. I mean, can you believe this story? This guy had to have emergency back surgery. Frank Esposito says it started last March with unrelenting back pain. He could barely move, and an MRI showed a big bulge in his spine. A specialist told him to go to the closest hospital immediately. Doctors at the emergency room said he needed surgery. The herniation was so severe it could cut his nerve and render him paralyzed. Surgery was a success, but then the bills started coming, over $650,000 in all. His insurance company, Biden says Americans love their private insurance. Pete Buttigieg, Bernie, why are you making Americans choose between their wonderful, generous, patriotic private insurance and government-run health care? Why, Bernie? Why? His insurance company said his back surgery didn't qualify as an emergency and wasn't medically necessary. Quote, "What was my choice? Just to be paralyzed for the rest of my life?" asked Esposito, a tool and die maker from Long Island, where I'm from. Then to get these bills that were so overwhelming, you say, this can't be real. I mean, I really don't have to pay this. How am I going to pay this? And you sit there and you start crying because you don't know what you're going to do. This guy, let's get this straight, okay? And I'm going to find out. I'm going to try to get in touch with this guy and hopefully get an interview if he wants to do it. You're telling me that your back, and I had 2 back surgeries in the last year and a half. Not as severe as this guy, but pretty bad. I mean, Jen saw me before my first back surgery. I couldn't comfortably stand. I couldn't walk either. So this guy is near paralysis, okay? He's told if you don't get emergency surgery, you're going to cut your nerve, which means you're paralyzed. And his health insurance company, it's not medically necessary. Apparently, the only way to prove it is after you cut the nerve, after you're paralyzed, then you can get the surgery. This is common in America. And these stories are generally in the back rooms where nobody can see them. This is what for-profit insurance companies do. They're not interested in your health. They're not interested in your well-being. They're not interested in your future, and they're not interested whether you live and die. They're interested in pleasing their shareholders, making the end of the quarter projections and end of year projections. That's it. That's all. And Joe Biden knows this. But the problem is he swims in the same exact circle, and he drinks caviar, he eats caviar and swigs champagne at the same exact fundraisers with the Wall Street bankers invested in these degenerates, with the big pharmaceutical companies doing business with all these degenerates, and with pretty much all the same officials, whether it's pharmaceutical industry executives, whether it's hospital executives. They are all in the same swimming pool as Joe Biden, and they're giving him money. Okay, so this is happening all over the place, but Joe Biden says, my plan gives Americans choice. My plan is better for the middle class. My plan costs less. Yeah? Well, your plan leaves out 10 million people. And by the way, I think that's a underestimate of how many people would be left out, because that's just how many people literally would not have insurance. That's not mentioning how many people might get insurance like they have on Obamacare now, but would not be able to afford all of the bills they're getting, or afford the deductibles, or afford the copays. There's another problem when it comes to any plan that's not government-run health insurance. As we've seen with Obamacare, these plans are constantly under the gun of being eliminated. Think Republicans are not going to stop trying to eliminate, call it Biden care if he got into the office, or if Republicans maintain the Senate or maintain either house, wouldn't work on, weakening rules, this and that. You think there's not going to be more challenges to specific parts of Obamacare or Biden care that could go to the Supreme Court? When you have government-run health care, that takes it off the table. Nobody is touching Medicare because it's been ingrained in our system, and the people will not stand for it. Just like, that's why they're fighting against Medicare for All so hard, just like nobody would touch Medicare for All when it's in the system and the culture and society for a certain amount of time. That's why you need a government-run healthcare plan. So I don't know what Joe Biden's talking about. He's putting, let me poll people and ask them, is $1,000 cap affordable for you for a deductible? Joe Biden says, you would only have $1,000 cap max deductible. Can you afford $1,000 deductible right now before you could access your health care? Can you afford that? Can you afford after you meet that, still maybe having to pay $40, $50, $75, $100 a cope for a doctor's visit? What about the medications? Because it's not capped at $200 under Joe Biden's plan, because Joe Biden fundamentally thinks healthcare should be a commodity you have to pay for. and that is barbaric, as Bernie Sanders has been saying for many, many years. And that's why it's kind of amusing to me. I mean, we get emails from all the campaigns. This is an email Joe Biden's campaign is sending out. Biden for president launches campaign blasting Donald Trump's relentless attempts to deny millions of Americans health care. Deny millions of Americans health care? So are you. Sure, Trump is worse. Let's not get it twisted. You're not ensuring health care for all Americans. And even if people get Obamacare or whatever, Biden care, most people still cannot afford it. Because Obamacare is fundamentally the one of the hallmark and best visualizations of failed public-private partnerships. You know, all these people who are always boosting of economic development. We need to have more public-private partnerships. Well, how's those public-private partnerships working out for you in Flint, in Detroit, in Milwaukee, in Cleveland, in Philadelphia, in Chicago? How's that working out for you, working class? Is the public sector, KISSING, with the private sector helping out you? I don't think so. So I'm hoping that Bernie Sanders continues on this path. I'm hoping that he continues going after Biden because it's a winning message. Bernie Sanders is strongest on Medicare for all. And frankly, I think Biden is a very weak candidate. And I also think part of why Elizabeth Warren is rising is because people are starting to get second thoughts on Joe Biden. Part of why Elizabeth Warren is rising is because people are getting second and third thoughts on Kamala Harris. So one poll in Iowa does not mean much to me. Is Elizabeth Warren rising? Yes. We can't put our head in the sand and, pretend it's not happening. But I think that if Bernie keeps going after Biden, a lot of those Biden voters would be open to Bernie Sanders before Elizabeth Warren. So let's see if he does it. Bernie oftentimes is aggressive, goes after somebody like Biden, and then kind of pulls back and goes back to doing the same thing he's been doing. I say have an aggressive campaign against Biden. Thank you very much. So let's see where we're at. I think we are, still $500 away from 75,000. So hopefully by the end of this live stream, we have a couple people that might be able to put us over the top. 75,000 would be wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Status quo, can he answer our questions? Let's see, did I miss any super chats? Okay. Mark Mulrini, €2 in the super chat. Are TYT supporting Warren over Sanders now? I don't watch my former stomping grounds, so I don't know. I don't know. I know that they're not critically covering Elizabeth Warren. I know that. I know that they deem Elizabeth Warren to still be like a capital P progressive, which I find suspect that they think she's so progressive, considering she's like against corruption for certain months in the calendar, and then if she becomes a nominee, I'll take your money. And the fact, I don't know if they've reported that she just like raised all the big money and did these lavish fundraisers during her Senate re-election campaign, $120 per stake fundraisers, it was reported, and then just transfer that money over. The fact that she won't give a straight answer on Medicare for all, I don't know. I don't watch them, so I don't know if they're covering that. I'd be surprised if they're not supporting Bernie, but I don't always get surprised by what's happening with TYT. Rocket6923, $5 in the super chat. I know this is off topic, but how familiar are you with the works of other YouTube journalists such as Tim Pool and Lauren Southern? Is Tim Pool the right-wing guy who I think has been on Joe Rogan a few times? If that is who you're talking about, I'm not that familiar with him. I saw him on Joe Rogan. I think he was on Joe Rogan when Jack from Twitter was on, if memory serves me correct. He was making some good arguments on that episode, but I don't really know him otherwise. I don't have a lot of time to watch so many other YouTubers. We're really busy building this up. So I don't know him that well, and I've never heard of Lauren Southern. No disrespect, I just don't know who that is. So enlighten us. Email us at info@statusquo.com if we should be checking him out. So I want to move on to something else. I might get in a little trouble for this, but to hell with it. I'm tired. I'm tired of the nonsense. And I'm not saying this as a Bernie Sanders supporter, because I would be the first one to criticize high-profile Bernie or any Bernie Sanders supporters, actually harassing supporters of other candidates. Oh, Lauren Southern is a white nationalist? I didn't know that, so I don't support her. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, I don't know who Lauren Southern is, but if she's a white nationalist, not interested. So, Hillary Clinton's campaign, their reflex was those Bernie bros. They're harassing us online. There was never real evidence of that. It was more so that Bernie Sanders supporters were avid on social media and they didn't stand for bullshit. So if Hillary Clinton's supporters and pundits and journalists would put out stuff that are wrong, lying, lacking context, unfair, they would respond. I mean, for better or worse, that's what Twitter is. But you keep seeing from the same exact people in establishment corners this ridiculous notion. Bernie Sanders supporters almost equated with Donald Trump supporters as harassing people, harassing African Americans on Twitter, harassing trans people on Twitter, to the point where the Bernie campaign, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because even if it's nonsense, you can't be seen to be condoning that. So people in Bernie's campaign, including Nina Turner and others, came out saying we don't stand for any harassment, which I agree with if there's actual harassment. But the more times we see this, and it's the same exact playbook, it's people that condemn Bernie Sanders in very weird ways, whether it be African Americans condemning him. We know about Zerlina Maxwell, who is an African American pundit. I think she's with Sirius Radio. She goes on TV and keeps putting out these ridiculous things that are not true about Bernie Sanders. I remember for his first rally in Brooklyn this go around, his first kickoff rally, she said he didn't talk about civil justice or criminal justice reform for like 23 minutes. He spoke about it within 7, I think it was, and it was just like people were just like clearly pointing that out. Then she goes on TV on MSNBC, says Bernie Sanders, there's no like specifics. Elizabeth Warren has all the specifics. This was on the same week that Bernie came out with a criminal justice plan, a labor plan to double union memberships, a climate change plans. I mean, it's just people keep putting this stuff out there. So I always think, and again, I'm a white dude, so I think I'm being honest and I think I'm being respectful, but should African Americans or transgender people or whoever, even Native Americans, should they just be able to say whatever they want and people can't respond on the merits? I'm not talking about attacking them for being black or native or trans. All that stuff is totally ridiculous and totally disgusting. I wouldn't condone that, and nobody does. But if an African American says something that's not true about a candidate you like, you're not allowed to say anything back? I mean, that's basically what the corporate neoliberal establishment's playbook has been. And it's essentially propaganda to make it seem like Bernie Sanders supporters are basically, racist or homophobic or anything other. And we could disagree on policy, and you could be an older person who thinks, oh, these young people, they just don't understand how the world works. Yeah, you want to think that? That's fine. I mean, you're wrong. But we have to agree we have to be able to respond to political people putting out credible responses. So this Angelica Ross, who I believe, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, owns a tech company that helps transgender people, which I think is great, or a tech company that kind of caters to transgender people. She put out something questioning Bernie Sanders' absence at an LGBTQ event because Bernie cited scheduling conflicts via a spokesperson. To tell you the truth, I agree. I think Bernie Sanders should have been there. I don't question his support for LGBTQ matters, but I think, you have scheduling conflicts, but you just got to make the right decision on what the priorities are, and I think he should have been there. Just like I think, she's an actress and she's trans. Thank you, Jen. See, I'm not totally in the know with the culture. Thank you, Jen. She's an actress and she's trans. So she's questioning Bernie Sanders' commitment. I don't know if Angela Ross, I'm not attacking her, but obviously she hasn't looked at the record that well. So if you're watching, Angela, here's some of the record.
Will be in order.
Mr. Chairman?
The gentlewoman from Colorado is recognized. And the gentleman from Vermont is
Well,
recognized.
the gentleman from California, is he still here or did he disappear?
For what purpose does the gentleman from Vermont
I
rise?
rise to speak in support of the amendment.
The gentleman from Vermont.
I wonder if I could question the gentleman from California. I am rising in support of the amendment.
The chair is in charge. The chair is speaking. The gentleman from Vermont has been recognized for a period of 5 minutes, and you may now proceed.
I thank the chairman very much and would like the opportunity if the gentleman from California would respond, just to ask him a brief question, if I might. Now, my ears may have been playing a trick on me, but I thought I heard the gentleman a moment ago say something, quote unquote, about homos in the military. Was I right in hearing that expression?
Absolutely. Putting homosexuals in the military.
You said something about homos in the military. Was the gentleman referring to the many thousands and thousands of gay people who have put their lives on the line in countless wars defending this country? Was that the group of people that the gentleman was referring to?
I'm talking about the military. People in the military do not support.
That's not what we were talking about. You used the word homos in the military. You have insulted thousands of men and women who have put their lives on the line.
I'm talking about you and liberals like you that keep the foreign defense.
Gentlemen,
reclaiming my time.
Committee will be in order.
Mr. Chairman?
The gentlewoman from Colorado is recognized.
Talk about a lack of commitment to LGBTQ issues. Not to mention, as Burlington's mayor in the 1980s, he was one of the first, other than San Francisco, to have LGBTQ parades for Pride. So I don't, again, she might just not know any of this. She's an actress, and that's fine. She's not a political person or a journalist, so I'm sure they don't know these things. But to make these comments, like, because she's transgender, should no one be able to respond to her? Is that what we're saying? So this article from Out says Angelica Ross leaves Twitter after abuse by Trump Sanders supporters. So again, it's trying to equate Bernie Sanders supporters and by extension Bernie Sanders with Donald Trump. And they've been doing this for a while. So I just read to you what prompted this. She said Bernie should have been at this LGBTQ event. So Ross called Sanders' absence from the forum a huge misstep. I was disappointed not to see all the candidates here. I was further disappointed to hear this was not the only LGBTQ event Bernie was making other commitments for. You don't show up for both of the LGBTQ events. That's obviously telling us all we need to know. The comments brought some backlash from Bernie's supporters. So this is the backlash that this article put out. This is the quote harassment. This from somebody. So you're insinuating Bernie does not care about the LGBT community? If so, then you're using your platform to spread misinformation about a man who has always been on the side of LGBTQ community. You don't have to like him, but don't play loose with the truth. I don't know. I'm not a bigwig at Twitter. I don't see the harassment in that tweet. I just don't. Do you? Another one. To question Bernie Sanders' stance on LGBTQ rights is the most ridiculous thing ever and shows you're biased against him. He's been an ally before it was cool and socially acceptable, while every other candidate just hopped on the equality train. Warren was a Republican not too long ago. I don't think the Warren was Republican thing is really relevant, but the point is, this is not harassment. This is a transgender person making an uninformed statement and getting called to task for it. Too bad. The third one they point out And honestly, if there was harassment, it shouldn't have been difficult to find and put it in your story. But the examples the Out magazine used are not harassment. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not calling any Democratic candidate homophobic. I just don't like Angelica Ross assumed Bernie to be homophobic by charging him with this minor offense. By her definition, a lot of candidates are transphobic, including the one she praises. So, I'm not like particularly, this is not an isolated incident, so I'm not just like, it's not about Angelica Ross, because this is a pattern. The corporate Democratic establishment and these identity politics people, they either don't know Bernie's record or they don't care. And I remember when I covered Hillary Clinton the night of the New York primary in 2016. Honestly, I don't mean this in an offensive way, I just have to be honest. I could not believe how many gay people were at Hillary Clinton's rally. I mean, obviously gay people care about many issues, just like black people don't only care about black issues and Latinos don't only care about Latino issues, but this is someone who came to support gay marriage like 5 minutes before it became law, right? So it's the same thing here. Like, this transgender people or gay people don't need to support Bernie. You could be a transgender person who's more establishment. You could be a gay person that's, just for whatever reason doesn't support Medicare for all. That's fine. But to put out that you're being harassed because you're putting out statements that simply are not true, I don't know if it's intentional propaganda, but it's propaganda. Like, there was no harassment in that story. But it takes on a life of its own. So first, the headline is, actress leaves Twitter because she's harassed by Bernie Sanders supporters. Then all of a sudden, CNN picks it up because it's something against Bernie. And it's a narrative that keeps getting formed. And then Bernie Sanders' campaign, who has nothing to do with it, and frankly, in my view, should just come out and say, we haven't seen any comments that are harassing coming from our supporters, but if there are supporters you could point out doing it, we 100% disavow that. Easy peasy. But this is a continued smear campaign on top, it's one smear campaign on top of another smear campaign. It all builds on each other to basically knock this guy out because they can't go after him legitimately on the policies, because all of the policies are very popular. So all I'm saying is I'm just tired of hearing from I don't care if it's a black person, I don't care if it's a transgender person, a brown person, whatever. If you want to put out, I would have been totally fine if Angelica Ross put out, we appreciate Bernie Sanders' strong record on LGBTQ issues over his years in service. With that said, we're disappointed he did not find a way to make these events. I think that's fine. If they would have acknowledged the record is strong over 30 years in government and just said, we're disappointed that he couldn't come. I think he didn't come. I think the scheduling conflict was a climate event, if I'm correct. Whatever. Campaigns make issues. If I were him, I would have tried to come or do a video or something. But when people are putting out falsehoods after falsehoods, you're not really any different than Neera Tanden from the Center of Phony American Progress, right? You're not very different than, David Brock. So I think it's problematic, and I think people need to start calling it out and stop being so afraid to be labeled, Stop being so afraid to be labeled racist or sexist. No, they don't get a free pass if they're putting out falsehoods. To me, everybody should be bashed. White, black, brown, Latino, indigenous, glow in the dark. If you're putting out stuff that's not true, you should be bashed. And by the way, I would say the same exact thing. If people were signing offline or leaving Twitter because Elizabeth Warren supporters were harassing them, if I read the same exact tweets in a story from Elizabeth Warren supporters that they put in from Bernie Sanders supporters, I'd be like, I think these Warren supporters should be supporting Bernie, but these are harmless tweets that are not harassing at all. Oh, what would I do without Jen? She keeps feeding me the facts because I keep getting them wrong. Sorry. He was at a historically black college. I thought he was at a climate event, but he was at a historically black college. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he goes to the LGBTQ thing, then he's not showing up for the black community. If he goes to the black community, then he's not showing up for the LGBT community. Thanks, Jen, for correcting me. If you haven't noticed, I didn't sleep last night, but I digress. And thank you very much. We got another donation in GoFundMe, $74,530. Thank you, Renzo, $10. Thank you, Terrell, $20. We're now $470 away. $470 away from hitting the 75,000 mark. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Can we do it? Can we do it? And if you haven't noticed, I'm losing my voice too, so that's not helping. Thank you. $470 away. I hope we can do it today. Let's see. So, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep calling out this nonsense because it's nonsense. It is nonsense. Angelica Ross, actress, trans, whatever. Respect it. Respect you. I think you should be treated no different than anyone else. You should not face discrimination, but you're also you shouldn't be treated with kid gloves if you put out nonsense. I don't really care if you're transgender or not, frankly. And if you want to say that's insensitive of me, too bad. Too bad. I'm an equal opportunity critic. And I don't believe that these people should be shielded from, it's not even criticism. They're responding based on what you're putting out there, that you're basically saying this continues Bernie Sanders' pattern of not showing up for the LGBTQ community. Well, Bernie Sanders showed up for the LGBT community way before Hillary Clinton did. As far as I know, way before Elizabeth Warren did. Certainly well before Joe Biden did. I digress. And one last story for you. And my God, what I would do if I could go speak with this little girl. What I would do if I had the money to go speak with this little girl. In America, in addition to killing black people who are unarmed, in addition to just terrorizing communities, the police are now arresting 6-year-olds. Florida grandmother outraged after a 6-year-old black girl was arrested for a tantrum. A Florida grandmother was shocked to find out her 6-year-old granddaughter had been arrested Thursday for throwing a tantrum. Marilyn Kirkland said Kaya's journey to the Juvenile Detention Center by Orlando police began at Lucius and Emma Nixon Elementary Charter School. Quote, "What do you mean she was arrested?" he said. "There was an incident and she kicked somebody and she's being charged and she is on her way," Kirkland explained. The disorienting chaos was too much for Kirkland to process. Quote, "She has a medical condition that we are working on getting resolved," and he says, quote, "What medical condition?" "She has a sleep disorder, sleep apnea." And he says, quote, "Well, I have sleep apnea and I don't behave like that." First grader Kaya was handcuffed and carted off where Kirkland says she was fingerprinted and even had a mugshot taken. Quote, "They told us we had to wait a few minutes because Kaya was being fingerprinted. And when she said fingerprinted, it hit me like a ton of bricks. No 6-year-old child should be able to tell somebody that they had handcuffs on them and they were riding in the back of a police car and taken to a juvenile center to be fingerprinted and mugshot." I don't know anymore, folks. I just don't know anymore. Jen, is it worth it? Should we just move to Canada? Should we just move to Canada? I mean, you got Joe Biden trying to deprive people with health care. You got fossil fuel companies destroying the planet. You got real estate executives buying off all the politicians. You got Native Americans, their land being stolen, their grave sites being constructed over. You got people being deprived school lunch or being sued if you have a $20 unpaid school lunch bill. And now you have 6-year-olds being handcuffed. Well, I got news for you, okay? I have news for you. My nephew, lovely boy, he'll be 5 in January. He's a white guy, not a black girl. And he could be a little rowdy. And he occasionally has some listening issues. He's 4.5. I'm guessing when he goes to kindergarten, first grade, I'm not going to be surprised when my brother gets a phone call that, God bless him, I love my nephew, that, my nephew might have had a little issue in class or might have hit somebody. Again, I'm not hoping for it. I'm not saying my nephew is out of control, but he's a young boy, right? He's a young boy. I'm not saying it's acceptable to hit somebody, but sometimes young children act out. Okay? So, thank you, Lalina Kilgore, $5 in the super chat. Boyfriend died in just over a week, unsure why. Healthcare matters. I'm so sorry for your loss, Lalina. I hope you figured things out, and I'm really sorry that you lost somebody you love. That happens too much in this country. Gabriel Arcari, 100 SEK. Keep up the good work, Jordan. Bernie Tulsi 2020, regards from Sweden. Love my friends in Sweden. So, I mean, what is next, folks? A girl threw a tantrum, so you cuff her? Do you understand the psychological damage this poor young girl probably has now? Can you imagine, just at 6 years old, what she's going to have to carry with her? I don't even want to know what kind of nightmares she might go through. Being in a police car, having your hands restricted, not knowing where you're going, being fingerprinted, not even know what's going on. Where is my mother? Where is my grandmother? Where are you taking me? They could have very much psychologically ruined a whole person's childhood and possibly brought it to them in their adulthood. And you think she's going to have the ability to get the therapy she needs under Joe Biden's healthcare plan? Yeah, we should arrest our president. Somebody just made that comment. School to prison pipeline for new blacks start from first grade, Veronica says. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like, what are the police thinking? You know, if a 6-year-old throws a tantrum or hits somebody, you know what you do? You put them in timeout. Well, I'm not a parent, so you do what you want to do, but that's what I would do. You take away their, I don't know, television privileges. You make them apologize to who they hurt. You don't put them behind bars. You don't put them in a police car. And I hope this family sues the Orlando Police Department for every single dime that it has. It's unbelievable. Music, the time to go after Warren is now. Music, pay attention. 6-year-olds are being arrested. People have stopped having empathy. When I was a kid, they used to report bombings as 120 killed in 2 minutes. Look at the cops beating up the middle school kids and the high schoolers, tased and arrested. The police are out of control. And if you actually read the criminal justice plan, Bernie Sanders' plan is the toughest on police and has the most radical reform, including getting rid of cash bail nationwide. I mean, what are they going to start arresting and putting 6-year-olds on parole? 6-year-olds have to meet with their parole officers next? Do 6-year-olds have to then do work in the yard, community service, for a tantrum? I don't know. Canada's starting to look better. But we're going to stick it out here until we destroy the oligarchy. Then I'll retire to Canada. How's that sound? Carl, we need you here. I'm just kidding, Carl. I'm not going anywhere. All right, folks, that's all the madness. I'm going to have a show tomorrow for you. Hopefully we'll have some news. We're trying to finish behind-the-scenes stuff to get our new cameraman and then hit the road. Just give you an update where we are. It looks like we did not make it in this live stream to the goal of $75,000, but we got quite a bit closer. So we're now just $470 away from reaching that $75,000. And once again, why I think it's really important to get to that $75,000 is then it's just psychologically like 10,000 left. 10,000 left to go, which I think it's not going to happen overnight, but I think we'll do it. I don't want to say relatively quickly, but we'll do it. We're going to get that 10,000 come hell or high water. Not from plutocrats, not from the corrupt. but from the people that want this kind of journalism. And I could very confidently tell you, if we hit that $85,000 relatively soon, we will have a good chunk of change to start getting back in the field more regularly, which is the goal. We want to get back in the field more regularly, and then as we're in the field, we want to grow our membership, because membership is how we grow for the long term. And you know the drill there. That's statusquo.com/join, and we're going to have our monthly members call. Our monthly members call is coming up this Thursday, September 26th. September 26th will be our members call at 7:30 Eastern. So if you're a member or a patron, you'll get the link. If you are not a member, what are you doing? If you want to be on the video call, it's not through YouTube, it's through Zoom. So you see me, I see you. Hop on board. Join us, statusquo.com/join, and you'll get the invite to join our members call for this Thursday. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Remember, you could donate to that GoFundMe 24 hours a day. You can become a member 24 hours a day. And more importantly, spread the word, spread the gospel of the coup. You are children of the coup, no matter how old you are. We need a status quo in this country because police are arresting 6-year-olds now. That's the truth. I'll see you tomorrow.